All right, so get this. Imagine a martial art, right? Where you ditch, all that rote memorization,
Hmm.
like forms and just dive headfirst into like figuring things out, like on your own.
Sounds a little intimidating, maybe.
Yeah,
Mm.
a little bit, right? But that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Oh,
We were looking at Armadong and this thing they call the thought provoking process.
yeah. It does flip the script on how we traditionally think about learning martial arts, doesn't it?
Totally, yeah. And our guide for this deep dive is an article. It's called "Against the Wind,"
Okay.
and it's by Thon Uli Weidel.
Yeah.
And he's a seasoned martial artist who discovered this really fascinating system. And so we're going to be exploring how this method, how it pushes students to like discover the art through experience, right, rather than just copying what they see.
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah, tons to unpack. So before we go any further, can you give us like a quick rundown of what Armadong Kali actually is? Like what is it?
Sure. So Armadong Kali is a Filipino martial art known for its focus on weapons, especially sticks and blades.
Okay.
But what really sets it apart, what makes it really unique, is the philosophy behind it.
Okay.
And it's guided by three core principles: attack before defense,
Okay.
no idle hand or foot,
Right.
and this thought-provoking process that we're gonna really explore today.
Okay, so I'm already intrigued, right? Now, the author of our article, the guy who wrote this, he had quite a journey, right? Like before he discovered Armadong Kali.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, this is someone who'd already spent 15 years training in various martial arts like karate, kickboxing.
Wow.
He was looking for practical self-defense skills. But what he found in Armadong Kali was like a complete shift
Hmm.
in how he thought about learning and understanding martial arts, like altogether.
It's like he went up a level and discovered this whole secret world of martial arts and a whole new way of thinking. So let's get to the heart of it. The thought-provoking process itself. How does this way of learning, how does it actually differ from these structured forms and routines that we often see in other martial arts? Like what's the difference?
Yeah, so you've probably seen, those choreographed sequences of movements like kata in karate,
Yeah.
pums in taekwondo.
Right.
These are all about, mastering preset forms.
Yeah.
But Armadong Kali, it throws that out the window.
Really? So no following the leader. What do students actually do in this thought-provoking process? Like how does it work?
Well, think of it like this. You're thrown into like a realistic scenario.
Okay.
Maybe someone's attacking with a stick and you need to figure out how to defend yourself.
Right.
And so the instructor, he guides you, but instead of giving you the right answer, right, he prompts you to kind of find your own solution.
So it's a constant back and forth of questions and just like experimentation. No wonder they call it thought-provoking.
Exactly. And it's not about mimicking some perfect form.
Right. Right.
It's about understanding, okay, why does this technique work?
Hmm.
How do I adapt it to different situations?
Right.
And just developing that critical thinking like in real time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a world away from just memorizing a sequence of moves. And I think the article even mentioned this, right? Like Western boxing and wrestling, they don't rely heavily on forms either. It's like they have a built-in thought-provoking process, right? Even if it's not explicitly called that.
It's an interesting parallel. Both systems, they emphasize adaptability, responsiveness to your opponent's actions,
Right.
much like the thought-provoking process in Armadong Kali.
Yeah. So we're talking about a method that encourages you to think on your feet and develop your own understanding of this art.
Exactly.
But what are the advantages of learning this way? Like what are the good things?
Well, one of the big benefits is that it keeps the art alive and evolving,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Each generation of students, they have to kind of rediscover
Mm-hmm.
and validate the underlying principles for themselves. It's like a constant process of testing and refining.
So no dusty scrolls or outdated techniques here.
Precisely.
Okay.
This approach, it keeps the system dynamic
Okay.
and makes sure that it remains relevant in a world that's constantly changing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But beyond keeping the art form like alive, like what does this do for the individual student, right? Like what does it do for me?
Well, think about it. When you figure something out on your own, right? It sticks with you far better than something that someone just tells you.
Right.
The thought-provoking process, it really instills like a deep sense of ownership, right?
Hmm.
And confidence in students,
Hmm.
because they're not just passively absorbing information. They're actively constructing their own understanding of the art.
They're not just learning techniques, right? They're learning how to learn.
Absolutely.
That's powerful stuff. But are there any downsides to this approach? Like, are there any bad things?
Yeah, I mean there are, and the author, he addresses this head on.
Okay.
Uh, One potential drawback is the heavy reliance on a strong mentor-mentee relationship.
Right.
This type of learning, it demands a very specific kind of instructor, someone who can not only demonstrate techniques but also guide the student's exploration and discovery.
So it sounds like it requires a lot of trust,
Yes,
right? And open communication on both sides.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And because of the personalized attention involved, the author explains that he mainly teaches Armadong in small groups,
Right.
to really facilitate that individualized instruction.
So while this method might not be for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Or easily scaled up to like massive classes,
Right.
it seems incredibly rewarding for those who do commit to it.
Exactly. And the author, he goes even further and argues that the thought-provoking process, it's more than just a teaching method. He describes it as a journey of self-discovery.
Ooh. Now this is where things get really interesting. We're
Sure.
we're talking about martial arts, but this sounds like it could apply to like any area of life.
You're picking up on a really crucial point.
Yeah.
The author highlights how this process, how it cultivates bravery, confidence, determination, qualities that reach far beyond just the training hall.
Yeah, yeah. I'm already starting to see how this concept could be applied to like learning new skills, problem solving, even personal growth. But
Yeah.
but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's dig a little deeper into how this thought-provoking process, how it plays out in Armadong itself. Like what does it look like in practice?
So imagine this. You're in a class, right?
Yeah.
With a handful of other students.
Okay.
And the instructor presents a scenario, maybe a simple attack.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of demonstrating the correct response, he asks, how would you address this?
That's a great way to frame it. So the students are immediately challenged for themselves. So
Exactly.
what happens next?
This is where the real magic happens. Students start experimenting, right?
Oh, okay.
They try different approaches based on their understanding of the core principles.
Right.
And the instructor, he observes.
Mm-hmm.
He offers guidance, right, and asks like probing questions to refine their thinking.
So it's not about finding the one right answer.
Right.
It's about exploring the possibilities,
Yeah.
right? And understanding why certain approaches are more effective than others.
Exactly.
Okay.
And through this process of trial and error, students begin to really internalize the principles
Right.
and develop their own unique style of movement and response.
So it's like a constant cycle of observation and action and reflection and refinement.
Exactly.
Yeah. I bet those aha moments are pretty amazing when they happen.
Oh, they absolutely are. And because each student is encouraged to find their own solutions, there's a real sense of individual discovery and
Right.
and accomplishment. But, it's not always smooth sailing.
What do you mean?
Well, the author, he emphasizes that this journey requires a certain degree of courage
Okay.
and humility.
Wow.
Right. Students, they have to be willing to experiment, to make mistakes, and learn from those mistakes.
Right.
It's a process that demands both physical and mental resilience.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's not just about learning how to fight. It's about learning how to learn,
Right.
how to adapt, how to overcome challenges. But I have to ask, what kinds of questions does the instructor actually ask, right? Like to guide this process? Like what are they asking?
That's a fantastic question, and it's a key part of what makes the thought-provoking process so effective.
Yeah.
The instructor might ask things like, why did you choose that response?
Okay.
What were you trying to achieve?
Right.
Or what if the attacker did this instead?
Those are some really insightful questions.
Right.
It forces the student to really think critically about their choices, right?
Yes.
And the underlying principles that are at play. Yeah.
Exactly. And through this continuous dialogue, the student's understanding, it deepens. And
Yes.
they begin to see the art in a whole new light.
It sounds like it takes a special kind of instructor to really pull this off effectively.
It definitely does. The author stresses the importance of finding a mentor who is not only skilled in the art, but also adept at guiding the student's discovery process, someone who can challenge them, support them, and help them unlock their full potential.
Yeah. So while this method might not be the easiest or the most conventional, it seems to offer a level of depth and personal growth that's pretty remarkable.
That's the essence of the thought-provoking process.
Yeah.
It's about so much more than just learning techniques. It's about cultivating a mindset of continuous learning, self-discovery, and personal empowerment.
I don't know about you, but I'm finding this incredibly fascinating. And I bet our listeners are too. But before we dive even deeper into the implications of this approach, let's take a moment to recap what we've learned so far about the thought-provoking process, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We have covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Yeah.
We've learned about the basic principles of Armadong, how the thought-provoking process, how it kind of throws out the rule book, right, of traditional martial arts teaching, and how it encourages students to find their own solutions through like active experimentation
Right.
and guided questioning.
Yeah, and we've begun to explore how this method fosters not only physical skill, but also mental agility,
Right.
critical thinking,
Right.
and a deep sense of self-reliance.
So this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Indeed. There's so much more to uncover about the thought-provoking process and its potential applications beyond the martial arts world.
It's amazing to think that this approach, this thought-provoking process, right, that it might be happening in places that we wouldn't even think of.
Yeah. It's a pretty fascinating thought, isn't it? That these principles that we've been talking about, that they have applications that go way beyond, just martial arts.
I'm all ears. Like, give me an example.
Well, consider the world of scientific discovery.
Right.
Right. It's very rarely just a straight line from question to answer.
Right.
Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs, they come when researchers, when they stumble upon like unexpected results.
You mean when their experiments don't go according to plan?
Precisely.
Okay.
Those unexpected outcomes, they can force researchers to re-examine their assumptions.
No, right.
Challenge their hypotheses,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately, it can lead to new discoveries.
So they're essentially engaged in their own version of the thought-provoking process.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all about testing, experimenting, observing, and constantly refining their understanding based on the evidence that they gather.
Yeah, right.
Even if it takes them down an unexpected path.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many groundbreaking discoveries came about because someone was willing to embrace like the unexpected and say, okay, so what does this mean?
It's a great point. And this principle, it extends, beyond the scientific realm. Think about creative fields like art, music, writing.
Right.
The creative process, it's often messy.
Yeah.
It's full of experimentation, dead ends, unexpected turns.
Right. You don't always know what the finished product's gonna look like when you start.
That's part of the beauty of it, right?
Right.
It's about embracing that uncertainty.
Yeah.
Being willing to play, to experiment, and to allow yourself to be surprised by where the process takes you.
It almost sounds like a form of thought-provoking play.
I like that.
Yeah.
And this mindset, it can be applied to problem solving in general.
Okay.
Think about those times that you've been stuck on a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the best way to break through is to step away from your usual way of thinking.
Okay.
to try a different approach, even if it seems counterintuitive.
Right. So it's about challenging our own assumptions.
Right.
And
Yeah.
being willing to step outside of our comfort zones. It's like that saying, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten.
Exactly. The thought-provoking process encourages us to break free from those patterns
Right.
and to explore new possibilities.
But let's be realistic. We don't all have, Armadong Kali masters guiding us through through life's challenges, right?
Right.
So how can we actually cultivate this thought-provoking process, right? In our own lives. Like how do we do that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It starts with a shift in mindset.
Okay.
Instead of always searching for the right answer, what if we focused on asking better questions?
Okay, so instead of what's the answer, right? We
Mhm.
we ask what if or how come.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about fostering curiosity
Mhm.
and a willingness to delve deeper.
Okay.
It's also about being open to different perspectives.
Right.
You know, actively seeking out, you know, diverse viewpoints,
Right.
and even being willing to challenge our own beliefs.
Now that sounds like it could lead to some pretty interesting and maybe even heated discussions, right?
It might.
Yeah. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Healthy debate and respectful disagreement, it can actually be incredibly stimulating.
Yeah.
And it can push us to think more critically
Right.
and to consider new angles.
As long as we remember to fight fair.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's about engaging in constructive dialogue.
Right.
Not just trying to win an argument.
Yeah. I love this idea of approaching like life with more curiosity and an open mind.
Yeah.
It's like turning like everyday experiences into opportunities for learning and growth.
And remember the author of our article, he emphasized that this journey requires, bravery, confidence and determination.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be easy or comfortable.
Right.
But the rewards, they can be immense.
It takes courage to question the status quo.
It does. To challenge your own beliefs and to embrace the unknown.
No, but remember, true strength.
Yeah.
It comes not just from physical prowess,
Right.
but also from mental agility,
Right.
the ability to adapt to change,
Mm-hmm.
and a constant thirst for knowledge and understanding.
So it's not just about being tough. It's about being resilient, adaptable, and open to new ideas.
And perhaps, perhaps if we can embrace this thought-provoking process in all aspects of our lives, we might just discover a whole new world of possibilities
Mm-hmm.
that we never even knew existed.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling inspired to shake things up a bit and challenge myself to think differently.
Yeah.
But before we go off and start our own personal thought-provoking revolutions, right?
Right.
Let's take a moment to recap some of the key takeaways from this deep dive. Just so we're all on the same page, because I'm still processing all this, and I'm sure our listeners are too.
Absolutely. It's a lot to absorb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We started by exploring Armadong Kali, right?
Right.
And its unique approach to teaching this thought-provoking process.
Mhm.
We've seen how it moves away from rote memorization
Right.
and emphasizes active problem solving,
Yeah.
questioning,
Mhm.
and personal discovery.
We've discussed how this method encourages students to really construct their own understanding of the art, fostering, deep learning and a sense of ownership over their skills.
And we've begun to see how this concept, how it extends beyond the martial arts context, right? Touching upon scientific discovery,
Yeah.
creativity, and even personal growth.
But this is just the beginning. The thought-provoking process, it has the potential to transform not just how we learn specific skills, but also how we approach life's challenges, how we solve problems, and how we engage with the world around us.
And as we've seen, it's not just about finding the right answers,
Right.
right? It's about asking the right questions,
Yes.
embracing uncertainty, and being willing to step outside of our comfort zones.
Exactly.
So as we move into the final part of this deep dive, let's consider how how we can take these principles and apply them to our
Mm.
own lives.
Yeah.
How can we each cultivate our own thought-provoking process,
Yeah.
and what impact might that have on our personal and professional journeys? Okay, so let's bring it all together, right? We've been exploring this really interesting concept from Armadong, this thought-provoking process. And it's not just about memorizing techniques.
Hmm.
It's about understanding why things work, asking questions, figuring things out through experience.
And what we've seen is that this idea, it goes like way beyond, just martial arts.
Right.
We've talked about how it shows up in scientific breakthroughs, in creative fields,
Right.
and even just approaching life with a more curious mindset.
The author's personal story, it really stuck with me. He was looking for practical self-defense.
Right.
But through Armadong, he discovered this whole new way of thinking. It's almost like learning a martial art can be a journey of self-discovery.
It really highlights the connection between mind and body, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Armadong Kali, with its thought-provoking process, it seems to develop both, physical skill and mental agility.
Yeah.
It's about adaptability, learning to trust your own instincts.
And those are definitely qualities that we could all, use more of, right? It's so easy to just go with the flow, accept things at face value,
Yeah.
or wait for someone else to tell us, what to do. But this approach, it encourages us to take charge of our own learning, our own growth, to become more self-reliant.
And it reminds us that the journey itself, is valuable.
Right.
It's in the process of questioning, experimenting, making discoveries that we truly learn and grow.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I wanna leave you with a final thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
If you had to create your own thought-provoking process for learning something new, what would that look like for you?
How would you challenge yourself to step outside of your comfort zone and to embrace the unknown? What questions would you ask? What experiments would you try? What assumptions would you dare to question?
Those are questions worth pondering. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Armadong and the thought-provoking process. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those questions coming.